Josiah, season 4, baby.
Happy New Year, also, and season 4. We're back. We're ready to get after it.
I severely regret saying opening season 4 the way I just opened season 4.
Oh,
I
can't take it
said,
back now.
Can we do a? Let's start from the top, and I'll be more intellectual.
Okay,
Ready?
I'm ready.
3, 2. Josiah, welcome to season 4 of this teaching project.
From the top, one more time.
Welcome to season 4. Season 4 of Learn Me Something, the competitive podcast where we compete to teach each other a topic, and the loser, voted by you guys, has to do a punishment. Boom! I did the full pitch.
That was good. Third time's a charm. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, in honor, since it's New Year's.
Yeah.
New year, new us. I figured we'd kind of change topics. So now, instead of kind of teaching each other random fun stuff like we used to do, I figured we'd make this more of like a self-help, new year, new you. Maybe talk about like some more political stuff, who you should vote for, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I was thinking about talking about January 6th and then ice baths and maybe like Ukraine, Israel, Palestine, just kind of knock those out real quick.
Yeah, that'd be good. I think I'm probably gonna focus in on atomic habits and the art of 1%. You know, I think that'll be my focus for the new year.
Yeah, I threw in ice baths, but
that seems like such a standard thing, though.
That's like the breather. Anyway, let's get into this.
Let's do it. I'm so excited.
We're not talking about that. We're bringing back the good old-fashioned learn me something charm.
Oh, yeah. We don't change. We just do what we know the people love.
Exactly. We're people. Say it with me. We're people pleasers.
We're people pleasers. If you're watching via video, I'm looking directly at you now into the camera. We're excited you're here. We upgraded our stuff so that everything looks higher quality.
So good.
It's taken us a long time to figure this out, but
it looks
great, and we're very happy with it. So, we don't have time to waste. You lost the season finale of season 3. Tell us. Give us a recap of what it was, and then tell us your experience.
So the punishment that I had to do since I lost was I had to choose 4 past punishments that either one of us had done in the entire history of the 3.5 years of Learn Me Something. So
Glorious.
I chose to eat a pound of yogurt, which I think it was actually 2 pounds.
You chose that one.
Yeah, it's. I did it the first time, and I was like, this is actually kind of enjoyable. It's really not that bad. No after effects, nothing. So that was fine. But accidentally
Confirmed not lactose intolerant.
No. Yeah.
Okay, good.
I'm totally fine. I mean, things change. You can develop, it's fine. Fine so far. And then I also tried to learn Korean.
Okay.
Tried learning Korean.
Oh, yeah.
Which you start out, they say you can learn it. There's this Korean phrase where a wise man can learn Hangul, which is the language, in a day, and a fool learns it. No, a wise man learns it in 15 minutes, and a fool learns it in a day. Something like that. I'm a fool. It took me more than 15 minutes.
We did that punishment way back when
I
lost that one.
Yeah.
Because we had read that is the... I don't know about comprehension and memorization, but that's the fastest language to learn how to read.
Yeah, no understanding. I don't understand any.
That was a Christmas episode, too.
Yeah, it was. I
read a carol.
You do that, yeah. I tried reading some Korean news. I filmed this all, and we'll link it in the show notes. You can watch a little more about it. And we'll post it on social later, too. The third one I did was I wrote a book report about Goodnight Moon. I will...
Lovely.
I'll read you an excerpt here.
Please do.
I titled it Goodnight Moon, a deconstruction of a complex literary work of history. And Goodnight Moon has been a staple of children's bookshelves around the world for decades. So many have nostalgic memories, blah, blah, blah. This is, I don't even know, I forgot to look how many pages. We'll link this as well so you can read the entire thing. But my favorite sections, this will be a tease for you to go get to read it. This is the last paragraph. Should Goodnight Moon have a place on bookshelves around the world? Originally, many took to this literary work as a calm story to read at night, before bed and to introduce a simple, quiet activity to induce a sense of sleep and calm. However, after digging deep into the story, we find a number of questionable moments that may cause some readers distress. So if you want to learn more about that, we'll link it below.
That's
And the
so
fourth
awesome.
thing I had to do, which you haven't mentioned anything about this entire time, but I had to rip one of my favorite shirts, and I've decided to continue wearing it as a cardigan.
You're right. I completely just thought, wow.
Doesn't it
we
look
have been-
good? Isn't that pretty good?
We've been on video talking to each other before hitting record for like 45 minutes now.
No mention. It's just because it looks so good. I put a black shirt on underneath.
Yeah,
It's just ripped
it
down the
works.
front. I mean, fashionable.
Wow.
It's recycling. It's really
Yeah.
upcycling because you take a long sleeve, you turn it into a cardigan. Might
It's
sell it for
renovative.
more even. Exactly. Whatever that means. But it is.
Renovative and innovative.
Yeah.
Both of those.
Oh, that's a good
combined.
word. That's a good word. I like it. Anyway,
Um,
you can watch the video that I made, and not very. I mean, probably the worst
was
one
awesome.
was. I don't know this one. I dress like a cartoon character, kind of. Like I don't have a huge variety in my closet.
Yeah, you
So-
just wear what you know.
Yeah, so I have worn this one a lot, but it really is time to move on. So
Cardiganed it.
cardigan it.
It really does look good. We've been talking for so long, and I did not notice that was something to notice.
Yeah. Well,
Wow,
that's how I roll.
that's awesome. I like the idea of you having to pick punishments. I think that's really funny.
It's not very fun. No, that was probably
No.
the hardest part. Like, what am I gonna? Yeah, I don't know.
How do you choose? I was
Yeah,
hoping.
it's difficult.
I knew you wouldn't do this because I wouldn't either. But I was hoping that you would just like purposefully choose some of the worst ones to repeat just for fun.
No chopsticks for hands. Never again. Never again. So
Okay.
you won. So
I did.
You get to choose who goes first. What are you
I
thinking?
won, and I want to go first. I want to start
Okay.
the year off and start the season off first. I'm being selfish.
Good. Good for
Um,
you.
Thanks. I've learned a lot on this podcast. Selfishness is one of them.
Yeah.
One of the things. And here's the thing, Josiah. There's only one way, only one rational, logical way that I could start this season. Do you know what it is?
Beatboxing.
Bungee jumping. You nailed it. We're going to talk about bungee jumping. And the reason I thought of this is, I don't know if this is still the case, but this was at one point one of your bigger fears. And so that's what piqued my interest about it. Is
Yeah.
that still true?
Still true. I don't really have any interest. I've been skydiving a few times, and
Yeah.
after the second time, I'm like, I think I'm good.
I think I'm never going to do that again.
Maybe I could be convinced, but bungee jumping, you'd have a hard time convincing me.
We'll see. Well, I have one full episode topic to convince you.
Okay.
So this is so fun. I love this topic because it's one of the topics that snuck up on me. You know, we've talked about this before, how we come up with ideas. Something pops into your head, and then you look into it to see if it's worth actually doing on the show.
Sure.
Or you see something on the internet or whatever.
Sure.
This is one of the ones where I was like, I wonder what the story is there. I wonder if it's worth talking about at all. And I looked it up and was not disappointed at all.
Okay.
Do you know the origins of bungee jumping?
No, I never even thought about this actually, but now that you
Yes.
say it, it sounds very interesting.
It is very interesting because before we can even talk about bungee jumping, we have to talk about where it came from,
Okay.
which is something much, much more dangerous and unruly. And I'm so excited.
Okay.
So, my topic for today is land diving. This is so good. This is going to be so fun.
Okay.
Let me take you over to Pentecost Island. Are you familiar with where that is?
No, not at all.
Okay. I figured, you big world traveler, you might.
No.
It is in the Vanuatu, forgive me if I pronounce that wrong, Vanuatu nation. It's an island nation. I think there's 83 islands, and Pentecost is one of the islands. It is in the chunk of islands east of Australia.
Okay.
over in that area, Southwest Pacific.
Let me pull up one of my favorite apps, Google Earth.
Yeah,
I love
give
this
it a
app.
look.
I love maps. Okay.
So, land diving only happens on this one island. Even though the nation has 83 islands, this is the only island it happens on. And it's a tradition that happens every single year, still happens today, and has been going on for around
Really?
15 centuries now.
Okay.
Yeah. So, this is so fun. I'm just looking at my notes. I'm excited to tell you all about this.
Bring it.
So legend has it that way back when there was a woman who was trying to escape from her husband who had been treating her poorly.
Okay.
And she goes running into the forest, and he is catching up to her, and she's running. They're running in the forest. So she decides to climb a tree. And she's climbing. She gets way up there, and he's climbing after her. And she realizes this was a mistake. I can't get out of this. He's climbing after me. He's going to get me up in this tree. So she ties liana, which are vines. She ties them to her ankles. And as the husband reaches her on the tree, she leaps from the tree with the vines tied around her ankles. And the husband, trying to catch her, leaps after her. And while he falls to his death, she is caught by these liana and saved.
That's ridiculous.
It is it is ridiculous legend until I tell you that exact thing happens every single year.
No.
Yep. For 15 centuries-ish, it happens every single year. Let me give you some setup. The time is between April and June. This is yam harvest season, of course.
Yeah.
Everybody knows their
Busy
yam harvest.
season. Busy
Yeah,
season for the yammers.
I'm already planning and prepping for my yam harvest season, so I totally understand why they're doing it this time. And this is a central part of this ritual tradition because, one, they believe that a successful dive will bless the year's harvest, and two, that time of year ensures that the vines, a little foreshadowing, the vines in the area will be elastic and
Will not
strong.
snap.
Because they are not tried out yet. So this is the time of year they have to do this. They've tried to do it a few other times, like Queen Elizabeth went to see it, so they did it out of season for her, and ended in death because it's a very specific frame that this requires. The men and the boys who are set to do this, they separate themselves from the women during this time period.
Okay, so there's like a men's league and a women's league, or they just go away?
The men go away and they live with each other. I read one. I don't know the exact purpose.
It's like camp.
It is just kind of tradition. Yeah.
Sure.
I read that it is to help them clear their minds, which I just thought was funny.
Just leave me alone.
Yeah, gotta get away from the women. Gotta focus in for this big jumping. It actually started with women jumpers. They think because of this legend, the women, every year they would jump in honor of this original woman who jumped. And then the men eventually didn't want their wives to be doing that, so they took over. Now it's a men-only situation.
Because somebody has to do it. Yeah, somebody has to do it.
Exactly. It's yam harvest. You can't
just cancel it.
They separate themselves.
What's the island called
What's
again?
Your question?
What's it called?
Pentecost.
Oh, Pentecost. I found
Island.
it. I found
Did
it.
you?
Yeah.
It's kind of a long.
North Shore or South Shore?
I don't know.
Okay.
I think it happens. I think it happens all across the island, happens in multiple spots.
It's pretty wild. Small island.
Oh,
okay, continue.
Just you wait. So the dive. I'm leading up to this exciting dive. The dive is a showcase of bravery for the men to show that they are strong, they're masculine, they've got courage, they've got guts. And it's a rite of passage for the boys. So for this island, when the boys want to officially become men and considered as men, they have to climb and dive. And usually around 7 or 8. So some of these are pretty young boys.
Wow.
So they construct the Nagol. Nagol. Again, if anyone from this region is listening to this for some reason, please forgive my pronunciations
That
of all of
sounds
these
like
things.
a Lord of the Rings
It does.
villain or something, or a place in Lord of the
What
Rings.
I'm about to describe seems like Lord of the Rings as
Okay.
well.
Okay. Orcish
20
behavior.
to 30 men. What did you say?
Orcish behavior, or
Exactly.
or elvish
Kind of.
behavior. No, that's like
I'd
elvish behavior. That's what I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
20 to 30 men.
Okay.
Over the course of 2 to 4 weeks, they begin to build, and they build the Nagal, and it's a tower, and it is 100 feet tall, approximately. Every single year they build one of these. And yeah, so you're looking at about 10 stories.
Yeah, there's a 10-story. I just counted. There's a 10-story apartment building across the road here. That's so high to be
If you
jumping
see
off
pictures
of.
of this thing, it's wild. They don't use any nails or screws or anything like that. They build the entire thing. They find a tall tree in the area. They build the thing around the tree with wood poles, like scaffolding, and it's spiking out in every direction, and then they use these vines to hold everything together and keep it structurally sound.
Okay,
So
so
picture this
yeah.
spiky, intense mass of wood, poles, and vines just gutting straight upward in this pretty narrow but tall 100-foot tower.
Okay.
Very impressive looking. It's all braced with vines. Everything is like soundly built. And then ascending the tower, there are diving boards or platforms that are built at varying heights.
Okay.
Enough for all the boys and men who are set to jump on the day of the great ritual.
Okay.
And then at the base of the tower, this is also a bit of foreshadowing. At the base of the tower, the soil is cleared of all rocks and hazards, and then is tilled to make softer.
Okay.
That's all the info I'm given on that for now. And then after the tower is built, all of the men settle their affairs, just in case things don't go well at the tower, the day of the great climb.
So they've gone away. They built it. Once the day comes, you're allowed to kind of see people say your goodbyes or.
Oh yeah. So let's talk about the day. It's jump day. Which is something I came up with. That is not an official term.
Jump day.
It's jump day. This feels like a like one of those young adult novels, one of the post-apocalyptic. Everyone like, you've come of age, you have to choose your category of
Sure.
gauntlets or whatever.
Choose your diving board.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how it works.
You don't know how it works?
We'll find out.
I know how it works. Here's how it works. It's jump day. Everybody comes. It's a huge ordeal. It's very exciting. Everyone comes out to watch. They're all cheering. They've got chants and stuff. High energy situation. And then the first, youngest, smallest boy climbs the tower. And he is going to be the one to jump first on this glorious day. And he jumps at the lowest elevation platform. So remember, the platforms are varying heights.
Sure.
He's the youngest. He's the smallest. He's going first, but he's also going to the lowest height.
Sure. Just
So-
have little Billy test it out. Kids are more
Exactly.
flexible and bouncy anyway.
Make sure it's safe. When he gets to his platform, he climbs out onto it, and it literally it does kind of look like a DIY, crudely held up diving board, as you would picture, like wood. You walk out onto these planks, and it's kind of poorly held up, but that's the diving platform. And then his ankles are tied by 2 vines that are chosen by the elders, and he gets tied in. There are no safety harnesses. There are no helmets. No one's wearing hardly any clothes at all. And there's no landing cushion. There's no netting. It's just a little boy looking to become a man with some vines tied around his ankles. And apparently there's not much math done either to measure the vines. They're just picked by the elders.
By vibes. pick them by vibe.
Yeah, this seems like a good one. Well, we'll learn later that
Okay.
the length of the vines really matters.
Yeah.
But for now, all we have to know is that the boy, he's barebacked, he's tied in by his ankles to two vines, he's on this tall tower on a rickety diving board, he spreads his arms out, everyone from the ground chants and cheers for him, and then he leaps out as far and high as he possibly can. And as he falls, he hits speeds of up to 45 miles an hour. The platform he leaps from, where the vines attached to his ankles were tied, breaks under the momentum, and that diving board swings down. And that's a crucial aspect of this tradition because the swinging of the platform is what's going to break most of the fall for this kid. And this is what...
Which is why length matters for
exactly
the vines. Okay.
Well, it's going to matter more, and here's why. And this is what makes this so much more impressive than bungee jumping and so much more incredibly dangerous than bungee jumping. The goal is that as the vine catches on the broken platform, the jumper swings backwards towards the tower, tucks his head, and scrapes his body across the soil and lands on the ground. So, I introduce to you land diving, where you tie vines around your ankles, jump off, and land on the ground. It is not like a bungee jumping where you land midway up and bounce. You hit the ground in like a tuck. I'm not kidding.
I'm not quite following, so let me explain it and then correct me along the way.
Okay,
so
please do.
A guy, in this case the kid, stands on the diving board.
Yep.
He jumps out.
Mm-hmm.
At some point, the diving board that he was on breaks.
At the initial impact of his weight. Yep, it shatters.
Okay, and then he swings back towards the tree, skids along the ground, and hopefully stops before he hits the tree and the platform.
Yeah, that's close.
Okay.
I've watched videos of this. It is crazy. It all happens so fast. You think it's this big, impressive swing where he slides to a stop, but your momentum carries you downwards so fast that you jump, you swing a little bit, but mostly you just catch at the bottom and hit the ground. And the vines are just supposed to catch you at the perfect length because this is what makes this so insurmountably dangerous, more dangerous than bungee jumping. If the vine is too long, the diver slams into the ground.
Right.
Boom. End of life.
It's gone. It's over.
Yeah. If the vine is just a little bit too short, the diver misses the ground altogether and swings at full momentum into this jagged tower, this nagal.
Right.
If the vine isn't healthy enough, it snaps, sends the diver into a free fall. If the platform doesn't break correctly, that changes the height of everything, which can mess everything up. If the tower is constructed poorly, the whole thing can collapse on itself, and that's happened before. If the diver tucks wrong, he can hit his head harder than his shoulder and be injured in that direction. And
what's the tuck position look like? Like, show me.
So you're kind of, I think, I could be wrong on this. Seriously, it's so fast when you watch, and it's actually, there's not much video or photo content of it because they don't allow much. Because
that makes sense because it'll get canceled.
Well,
people put a stop
it's
to that.
such a precious. This is like a huge precious ritual tradition to them that they don't want to. Like, they're pretty upset that bungee jumping exists.
Oh, really?
Because they think that was stolen from their. It's like a religious thing for them. But from what I can see, I did see a picture of a guy hitting his head on the ground, but it looks like he was tucked in this way and just kind of like shoulders the ground. So you shoulder and hit your whole torso and arm on the ground.
Okay, so you kind of skid on your side shoulder first.
For that one.
Okay.
And I imagine it all happened so fast that
it's just like
you
survival,
could land
maybe.
Exactly.
Just do what you got to do.
I've seen or I read something that says some people hit on their back. So I think it literally, you just jump and hope that things work out however you end up
Do
landing.
you have to do this? Is
I
it like
don't
a
know if
coming of age thing, or is it only if you want to?
I don't know if it's technically required, but it is like encouraged enough that I think it's considered cowardice if you don't. Like if you want to become a man, that's not considered cowardly. You really kind of have to do this. Um, it's so intense. So afterwards, so this little boy lands on the ground. People rush in to cut him loose and make sure that he's alive and healthy. Um, then the boy stands, if he can. Everyone cheers for him, and he walks away, officially a man. And then they just go up from there. So the next smallest picks the next platform up. The tallest people can be jumping from 100 feet up, and they're going to hit the ground. And it's all about this vine. How well can we, without actually measuring it super specifically and doing all of the physics and math behind it. It's just
Vibes. It's vibes.
It's vibes. And, I imagine the elders probably have 50 plus years of experience
Sure.
picking out these vines, so
Sure.
they know. And people are different heights and different weights, and all that is a factor. But land diving happens every year, and it's where someone jumps off of a tower, just like the woman from Legend jumps off of a tall tree with nothing more than these vines tied to their ankles, and then they hit the ground and stand up and walk off victorious. And I think that is so awesome.
So,
And actually,
are you trying to convince me with this to go bungee jumping?
yeah, because bungee jumping is so tame compared to this.
Okay, I see. I was like, how is this supposed to make me want to go bungee jumping? You're saying if they can do that, you can do this.
Yeah.
Okay.
They actually, I don't know if all the divers have this mindset towards bungee jumping, but I did read one interview where one of the guys was like, bungee jumping it's not so dangerous. He kind of like scoffing, like, look how cute they are on their really safe rigs where they just bounce in midair, over water if things go wrong. We jump straight onto the hard dirt because we're men.
Well tilled, but whatever.
Yeah, that's true. Could you imagine being a 7-year-old and that is like a routine part of your culture?
It's like instead of growing chest hair, you need to jump off a cliff, jump off a tower.
Yeah, you would just do it immediately. You would grow chest hair immediately.
Oh, yeah.
I think
that's
if
true.
you jumped off that.
Yeah.
It would just be like, boom.
That's the mark of manhood.
The Guinness Book of World Records actually gave this tradition the record for the most G-force inflicted in the non-industrialized world. So in everything that you can do without machinery and technology, this is the maximum amount of G-force possible.
Like jump off something and smack the ground. That'll do it.
Yeah. That
That's wild.
That's so cool.
It's crazy that they... Wait, so how deadly is it? Do you have any stats on that?
I don't have stats. I know that lots of people have died and
Sure.
lots of people have gotten injured.
Sure.
Especially the few times they're very, very superstitious. Like it's a very spiritual thing for them. So everything has to be done just right. Like the men the night before jump day, they sleep at the base of the tower, and that they think that like wards off evil spirits from it. And you have to do it during this season, or they think that is a bad omen, and it kind of is, because if you do it outside of season, everything's more dangerous anyway, just because nothing is, like the vines aren't as healthy. But they've done a few out of season jumps, and typically they always end up poorly. Like one of the out of season jumps is when the whole tower collapsed, and another one is when Queen Elizabeth was there, so they did it in honor of her, and the vine snapped and a guy died. So it's not uncommon for everyone to be just fine, or at least mostly fine.
Sure.
But it's also, I don't think, uncommon for people to get very seriously injured.
Sure. I think, probably the baseline is you'll get hurt.
Yeah.
But then, like, I can't imagine a way where you do it and don't get hurt. It's probably just part of it. is you just have to get
It-
as little pain inflicted as possible.
Yeah, and it looks. I was like watching with open mouth because just seeing how fast it moves, and it's just like, what is going on? I will. Oh, what's the word I'm looking for? Oh, I will warn the audience. It is like a tribal ritual, so there is not a whole lot of clothing going on for the men. Uh,
Not
I
a whole lot of clothing going on, but
Yeah, the best I could say is they're wearing very insignificant underwear. So I would not advise everyone go watch, but
okay.
it is crazy.
We've been warned.
Yeah, you've been warned. So that's mostly my topic because I think that's crazy. But let's discuss really quickly here the transition from this to bungee jumping.
Okay.
There's a fun story in here too.
Okay.
Oh,
I'm
also, you
I
can-
have it on and I'm just watching it.
Okay,
And
sounds good.
it is so much
Isn't
more
that
intense
wild?
than I envisioned.
Yeah. And I don't know how, it's hard to tell how elastic the vines even are. Like, it doesn't seem like they stretch
No,
much at
I,
all.
I was expecting like something cartoony where they just doink like a bungee cord.
Oh, no,
It's
it is
not
not
like
that.
It's like a rope.
These are like,
really.
yeah, they're like hard wooden vines. I think it'd be much more than the elasticity of like a climbing rope.
Sure.
That is dynamic, but
Sure.
if you were to just jump full force with one tied to your ankle, it's not going to be a big rubber boing. It's going to be a hard smack and bounce situation.
No,
Isn't it
boing.
crazy looking?
Yeah, it's so great. Okay, yeah. If you're just listening to this, I guess we don't have it showing either. But, yeah, considering the warning that Caleb gave, go watch. At least that's crazy. Sorry,
Yeah.
I'm sidetracked. I probably shouldn't be doing this while we're recording. But tell me about the transition to modern bungee jumping.
Yeah. Oh, real quick, actually.
Yeah.
You can go see this. You can pay. I think that they said it's like $120 ish to go see.
Really?
They let 50 tourists in a year because they're trying to protect the tradition and not let it gain huge publicity.
Yeah. I can
But
understand that.
if you're able to get your name on the list, you can go watch this, and I think that would be so cool someday.
That's wild.
Anyway, so yeah, let's talk about the transition, and then I will end my first topic of season 4.
Okay.
Fast forward. I guess we don't have to fast forward because they still do this today. So rewind to the 70s. The guy's name is AJ Hackett.
Okay.
He is an adrenaline junkie from New Zealand mixed with a smart guy. And we know that he has this combo because he is in a club called the Oxford University Dangerous Sports Club.
It's for smart guys.
So yeah, smart enough to be at Oxford, but adrenaline junkie enough to be in a dangerous sports club of Oxford. Him and his friends, they run into a video of these land divers, and he's just like, yes, I want that thrill without smacking my head on the ground at the end.
Mm-hmm.
So he decides he's going to develop this sport in a way that can be mass-produced but safer, and it's all based off of these land divers. And so he starts developing bungee cords, which bungee is, I forget what the translation is. I think it just means like super elastic cord.
Okay.
Anyway, he realizes that rubber is going to be a good alternative to actual vines because it's going to be more elastic. And he starts working with these scientists from Auckland University, and they figure out that if you stretch a single strand of rubber 6.7 times its length, it hits its breaking point and snaps. But if you stretch that same strand of rubber 4 feet instead, it's only using about 15% of its breaking strain. So they figured out if we just keep this thing like relatively tight, then this is pretty massively safe. So they developed this pretty easy formula once they had kind of manufactured these cords that would be strong enough to hold human weight. They realize, oh man, all you have to do is take the height of how far you want to jump and divide it by 4, and then that's the length of bungee you need to do it safely. Very easy formula, very simple math.
Even I can do that.
Exactly. They start testing it. He's testing it on himself. It's working great. He tries it with like a full body harness, and he's like, oh, this is awesome. And then he develops a new system that attaches it just to your ankles like the land divers. And he's like, oh, that's awesome too. And after all of this testing, he's like, you know what? This thing's going to blow up. Let's take this. Let's make it a commercial venture. Let's make a bunch of money off of it. So he goes to a bank to get funding. They shut him down. Goes to another bank to get funding. They shut him down. He's like, man, this thing's going to go big, but people have to know about it, and I don't have the funding to make it happen. So he comes up with this plan, which takes almost as much guts, in my opinion, as these land divers. It's fast forward to the 80s. He's finished with testing. He's ready to He's ready to take this thing worldwide. In the middle of the night, he goes to Paris. You already know where this is going. He sneaks up the Eiffel Tower. In the middle of the night, no one can see him. He's got all his gear, him and his buddies. They sneak up there, and then they just wait. And they get set up, and they wait for day to break. And as day breaks, he attaches his bungee cord to his ankles. He looks out amongst the crowd of tourists and happy French people, and he says, check this out. In my head, he said that. I don't know if he actually said that in real life.
He just said it like under his breath. Check this out, guys.
Hey, guys, check this out. And then he jumps off the Eiffel Tower, and you can imagine everyone was probably like, hey, uh-oh. Oh. And then he bounces, and I imagine everyone cheers and stuff, and he's like, yes, people saw. And yeah, yay. And as silly as that sounds, it was pretty effective. Like, there were TV news reporters there, there were all sorts of people there, and the whole world heard about it. And he lands straight to jail. They arrest him immediately.
Cut the rope. Straight into jail.
The police officer cuts it and
just
then
at the bottom.
Hauls him in. And then, so he gets arrested, but I guess they release him like 5 minutes later. And from what I read, everyone just like shakes his hand, and they're just like the police officers are like, you shouldn't have done that. That was illegal, and we had to arrest you. But I am so happy you did. That was
Can I get your autograph?
Yeah, seriously. And so they release him immediately, like just a little slap on the wrist. They arrest him long enough for the people to see, oh, we're not supposed to do that. Let's not copy him.
Sure.
And then they let him go. The whole world hears about it. It's this big thing. He goes back to New Zealand, and he starts his company. And that's it. That's the end of the story. He starts his company. What's it called? Oh, there's no way I'm going to pronounce this right. I even have to lean in to read it. The Kawaru, sorry, New Zealanders, suspension bridge. The Kawaru George suspension bridge. And he sets up his company there, and it's still there. He has a bunch of locations now, but that's like the original, the first public bungee jumping company, and it's a huge tourist destination. I read one thing. This feels crazy. So crazy it just might be true. That they jump like 500,000 people a year or something.
Like between their locations?
Yeah. I would assume. I only read that in one spot, so it might not even be correct. But if you divide that.
That's wild.
500,000 divided by 100 would be 5,000, right? Divided by 3 would be like 1,500-ish. There's no way they could do that in one day.
Unless they just have like the entire bridge on both sides is just bungee.
They just have like 25 bungees
and then they just
up.
Everybody jumps. You hope they don't knock heads, and then pull them back up.
At that point, it's just as dangerous as the land divers.
But you can't get 500,000 jumps a year if you don't.
Yeah.
No, he must have
Maybe-
quite a few locations in.
Yeah,
That's
I think
pretty
I think I read somewhere he has like 6. I could be wrong. I didn't look into the specific. I got
Okay,
more
okay.
tied up with the land divers
Sure, that
and
is
didn't look into the.
quite the more interesting thing to
Yeah.
be into.
And that's it. That's land diving in a nutshell. Isn't that so crazy?
I do feel a little better knowing so many people are fine bungee jumping. I still don't
Yeah.
really know how, like, statistically how many people get hurt and all that, but I will never land dive.
Oh,
I can
was
tell you
gonna say.
that. I can tell you that
Yeah.
for sure.
It just is. It just is crazy, and it makes me so happy that I finished telling that story, and you were like, "That's absurd." Just sold it more. I was like, "Yes, you're correct," and it happens every single year.
People,
with
they
little
still do
boys.
it. I'm sure
Yeah.
they break shoulders and legs and femurs and
Oh, they have to. Watching those videos, like it. My guess is it's more rare if they all come out uninjured than it would
Probably,
be if like half
probably.
of them do get hurt.
probably. It's just part of it. You know, it's part of
Yeah.
part of being a man is just getting hurt, dealing with
Jumping
it,
off,
and
jumping off towers. You
dealing
know?
with the consequences anyway. You know, you do what
Yeah.
you have to do.
Yeah.
Also, you were not kidding about. I think it was a understatement. Your insignificant underwear statement.
Oh,
It is. I would say that's not. I don't know. Understatement, overstatement. Yeah, you weren't kidding.
it is very yeah. It's if you've ever been in school, which most of our listeners I would assume have.
I don't think
You know
I
it's-
have never, but most listeners have been to a school.
You know, at some point you end up watching like documentaries of like old tribal things or like small tribes in Africa, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, it's like
is-
that.
Yeah, it's similar. So I would, as your favorite Learn Me Something co-host, I cannot personally recommend everyone go watch those videos. And if you're afraid to see some butts,
sure.
Yeah.
Or
Maybe-
like broken shoulders or something.
yeah, maybe
But
a
everyone's
better
fine with
option.
that.
Yeah, a better option would be to trust that Josiah and I have described it well.
We know it's best, and no, decide for yourself. Let's do a quick transition to talk about Patreon.
Yes, please.
We have our Patreon up. We also have a secondary podcast, kind of, called The Night Club, where we just kind of catch up, chat about who knows what. We have 2 up from the last month or so. Most recently, we talked about the Poop on the Walls house. So if you want to go listen to that, you can get a free trial and hear the entire backlog of the nightclub, or you can support us on there for as little as $1 a month if you would like. But no pressure.
Yeah,
These will
so-
always be free.
Yeah, Learn Me Something is always free. We do put a lot of work into them, so if you do want to support us, that's very, very kind. And the nightclub, which I don't even remember why we named it that. It was from one of the first episodes. It was a funny bit we were doing.
It was
And it
hilarious.
kinda
Go
just
check it
stuck.
out. Go
Yeah.
find out.
But we do those just as kind of a way to give back to the people that support us. And so we release episodes on Learn Me Something every other Tuesday. And the in-between Tuesdays for this next season, we're going to be doing nightclub episodes. So if you want to be in on those, if you want to check them out, have extra content, that's the place to do it. And we
All
love
right.
you.
We do. Thank you, patrons.
Yep.
All right, I'm going to get started by talking about a little man. Not a little man. He's just a man.
Zacchaeus? A wee little lad?
He was a wee little man. I'm talking about a man named, well, I guess I'm not talking about him. Forget I
I'm on
said
the edge
that.
of my toes.
Meet Major Reuben Fleet. Say hello.
Hello, Mr. Major Reuben Fleet.
He's sitting in his office. It's 1918, one of our favorite time periods on this podcast.
Seriously.
The early 20th century.
We end up in the early 1900s frequently.
Quite a lot. We're back today. So he's sitting in his office. He sees an order come across his desk from the U.S. War Department. So this is the end of World War One. He's looking at the sheet. It says he's now in charge of creating an aerial mail service between Washington, D.C. and New York starting May 15th of this year.
Okay. Nice.
That is so cool. This is going to be the first continual route where you can like send mail to people. It'll be quick.
Sure. Yeah.
But then he remembers today's
Establishing
date.
FedEx.
Exactly. In a way. He remembers today's date, May 6th. This means he's got 9 days to pull it off.
Oh.
Not much time, if you ask me.
No. What an exciting setup.
And so the Army had already announced this, like, it's happening, deal with it, figure it out. And the planes they did have were pretty much only used for training and couldn't even go as far. They couldn't fly from D.C. to New York.
Okay.
And so, like, this technology didn't even really exist yet.
So we have 9 days to develop
9 days to figure it out.
Nice.
In a way, yeah. So, with no time to waste, he gets to work. He orders 6 planes, gets on the phone with, like, can you, I need 6 planes. Can you do that in 9 days?
I'm going to need that.
And then he makes a few special requests. He's like, can you take out one of the cockpits? Because they're training planes, so one person sits in the front. You know, you've seen an old-timey plane.
Yeah.
Can you take out one of the cockpits and then maybe make it a place where you could put mail, maybe? And then double the fuel tank and the oil capacity, maybe? 9 days? Thank you. He probably didn't talk like that. He's a major. He talks like a man.
Hey, give me that.
Do it.
Give me what I want now.
So he also worked it out that they could land at a racetrack on Long Island because he's like, well, we need a place to land. The landing strip in New York is kind of being used by the Army, and it's World War One. No, sorry, they say the Great War. It's the Great War.
Yep.
You would not want to know if you like time traveled and were like, wait, it's World War One right now. They're like,
it's just
wait,
the first, first one.
What did you say?
Yeah,
the Great War.
Classic.
Oh, World War One.
Classic time travel mistake right there.
Oh, that would be heartbreaking. Anyway, so he didn't want to mess with them at all. So he found a racetrack on Long Island. They can land there. Should be fine. He also needs some pilots. So he's been one of the reasons he was chosen. He was like in charge of training pilots, and he'd become pretty skilled at it, and like could turn any random dude on the street into an Army pilot. And was kind of known for that. And so there needed to be 6 pilots total. He was to choose 4. And he chose some experienced, trusted guys. And the post office would choose the other 2. And so they're the ones that are kind of spearheading this. They're in charge of it. And then the Army is the one making it happen.
Sure.
So he later found out that these 2 other pilots had very little flight time under their belts and were very inexperienced. Like they just got out of training. And he found out that they got in because their parents had close ties to the Postal Service.
Oh, come on.
He was not very happy about this.
Classic nepotism.
What can you do if your boss tells you to, like, this happened? You're like, oh, okay, I guess
We're
not
running
happy
with
about
it.
it. We're running with it. That's the theme of this episode.
We're running with it.
So the day before the first flight, so I guess 8 days later, he took a few of the pilots to New York by train, kind of to show them their route. This is how you're going to do it. We're just going to do a test flight, basically. And only 2 of the planes were finished, so he takes a Army plane, and they set off. And, oh, this is sad. Camera died.
Oh.
We're going to keep going, though. We prepared for this. We have backups.
We prepared for the worst.
Should we edit this out? Should I just keep going?
Yeah, keep going.
In Learn Me Something style, we have issues and we deal with it. How's that?
That's good.
Thank you.
That's good. I like it.
Okay, so he takes one of the planes. It's not built for this distance. He knew that. He's like, I'm taking off in this. It's probably not it's not going to be able to make it that far, but we're just going to have to figure it out.
Yeah.
On the way, we have to have it done by tomorrow. Here we go. So he he later described the test flights back to New York. So they were gonna go. The plan is there's a route from DC to New York, and you stop in Philly between, so you can switch pilots, switch planes, and
Okay.
so they wouldn't, because that's a far distance for planes back in the day. So
Yep.
he says this: the weather was frightful. It was so foggy we pilots couldn't see each other after we left the ground. Even the masts of the boats in New York Harbor were sticking up into the clouds. I climbed through the fog and came out at 11,000 feet, almost the absolute ceiling of the plane. I flew south, guided only by a magnetic compass and the sun, until I ran out of gas and the engine quit. Since I had the plane without the extra gas tank, no surprise. There was nothing I could do but ride the Jenny, which is what they called those planes, ride the Jenny down and hope I landed near a source of gas. Mind you, this is the day before they were supposed to start the first Airmail service.
Yeah.
So he he landed. Oh, sorry. He says, I broke out of the clouds at 3,000 feet over lush farmland, so I just picked out a nice pasture and landed. A farmer sold me a 5-gallon milk can of tractor gas, but I had trouble getting it in the tank without a funnel. Got like 3 gallons in the tank and the rest all over me, but darkness was coming, and I couldn't wait while he got more from town, so I asked him to point out where Philadelphia was, and I took off. He's like, it's that way. He's like, okay. So he finishes by saying, 2 miles from the field, I ran out of gas again and landed in a meadow. Persuaded a farmer to drive me to Bustleton, which is the field.
Holy cow.
And Culver and Edgerton, 2 of the other pilots, had just arrived. So I sent Culver with some gas to get my plane and fly it in. And there were so many things wrong with the modified planes and their engines that we had to work all night to get them in flying condition. One gas tank had a large hole in it, so we plugged it with ordinary lead pencil.
Of course.
It's just leaking gas, so they're like, boop, put a pencil in there, should be fine. Next morning, 8:40, no sleep. They took off for Washington, landed at 10:35, and the mail was due to start 25 minutes later. So with 25 minutes to spare,
Whoa.
they made it back. And
And
so
they just have to do that every time.
figure it out. So he got out of the plane and found Boyle. Boyle's the name of the man who is going to be taking the first leg of the journey from DC to Philly. And Boyle was one of the new inexperienced pilots, and he was the major was not happy about that, as you can imagine. Nothing he could do but deal with it, figure it out, equip Boyle to the best of his ability. So he went over the flight path with him because he had stayed in D.C. Ready to take the new plane and go out. So he's one of the only ones that didn't fly at all. He's never done this flight before.
First time for everything.
Exactly. Nothing like learning on-the-job training. And then a car pulls up with men on just like 6 dudes or so standing on the running boards of the car, which is so hilarious to me. Those are the Secret Service. So imagine you have like a SUV and there's guys just standing on the outside, just like holding the rack on top, standing on the running board, just like bumping through the field. I just love that that picture. Inside is the president and his wife. So they get in. There's a crowd. This is like, they said this is happening, and people are all excited. The crowd was electric.
Ooh.
Not literally. They go to push start the propeller. Nothing's happening. They try again. They're like, what's going on? This is like super awkward, embarrassing. The president's here. We have this big crowd.
Yeah.
And then they realize, oh, this plane just flew from New York. We didn't put any gas in it. So they fill. There's a guy
Oh
comes,
my goodness.
fills it with gas. They push start it. Whirs to life. Good to go. Which
Is there something about the early 1900s where you just have to chaotically do stuff without thinking about it at all?
I think there's like some kind of, I don't know, something about, I don't know. There's something special about that time period where It's
People
like
were just doing stuff.
yeah, you just did stuff, and then nowadays we know what they learned from it, but you didn't know.
Yeah.
So they Boyle took off, started to gain air, and at the end of the runway there's these 60-foot tall trees, and he wasn't pulling up enough, and people thought he was going to hit the trees.
Oh, here we go.
And then the crowd kind of gets tense, and right as he gets there, he clears it by inches. This article says.
Oh.
And it says the crowd gasped, literally, which gives them just the show that they always hoped for. And
That's
they
awesome.
They go wild. But then they go home. You know, the war's happening. You know, it's awesome, but we got to move on. It's the early 1900s. There's stuff to do.
Yep. You know, you get it.
Yeah.
Man, that is a thriller end of the world movie classic scene where you're trying to pull up and you're like, I don't know if we're gonna clear it, and the pilot's just like tensing as if that's gonna help. He's like, come on, hold, and then he clears it by inches and everyone cheers and the happy music plays.
Exactly.
That's good. I'm glad that's happened somewhere in real life.
Yeah, it actually has happened, and the happy music continues playing. He keeps flying, and then the music gets quirky.
Oh.
I don't know. It
music?
turns from happy to quirky, or I don't know. I guess just goofy, because the control office not long after got a call from Boyle, but he wasn't in Philly like he was supposed to be. He was calling from some random field in the opposite direction where he was supposed to be flying. So he's supposed to be going northeast. He was found southwest. He got confused and landed with a little oopsie doopsie crash. And after going in the wrong direction, so the propeller is a little bent.
Wreck.
It's fine, but as fortune would have it, he landed next to the home of the post office official.
No way.
Fate. As
What
fate
are
would
the
have
odds?
it. I don't know.
That's
Not
awesome.
good. So the next day, the mail was flown to Philly. They brought a new plane in, took care of it, switched it to the new plane, and then it arrived in New York like it was supposed to, just a day late.
Okay.
Nobody
One day late,
really.
that's not horrible.
No, and like I said, people had moved on. The war was happening. It was basically, the news wrote about it. It was this great success.
Yep.
And everybody moved on. Boyle was given a second chance, but again got lost, ran out of gas, landed in a field.
This guy's not great.
And then after he landed in the field the second time, he got some tractor gas from another farmer, which I guess just happens all the time. There's just farmers with gas, or I don't know, maybe
Hey, you need some tractor gas? I was just carrying it around in this field.
And so he gets some tractor gas, takes off again, and then crashes a few miles before his final destination. Never even arriving in Philly the 3 times that he took off.
Man.
And the Postal Service was like, come on, just give him one more, just a third chance. Come on, Major Fleet.
He's doing so good. Please.
He's my son. And Major Fleet says, nope, not happening. And later, kind of after all this was over, Major Fleet said, like, he had some grace for the pilot, Boyle. He said,
Yeah, sure.
there were no maps of much value to airmen in those days. One of the dudes of the Geodetic Survey Office made up maps for the airmail pilots. The official state maps of New York, New Jersey, and others were all different scales and showed only political divisions with nothing of physical nature except cities, towns, rivers, harbors. And we had to fold large maps of the United States in a strip in order to have everything on a uniform scale. So naturally, people got lost. Like,
Yeah.
basically, it was just looking at a big map of the U.S. and trying to go from one specific city to another just with your eyes.
Yeah, I get that. That'd be hard.
Yeah, you know what? It's okay. It's okay, Boyle. And he said, in addition to the poor maps, the magnetic compass in the airplane was highly inaccurate and was affected by everything metal on the airplane, which
Oh, man.
an airplane is made of
Almost
a lot of
all.
metal.
Yeah.
And so pilots have to have a sixth sense about navigating, is what he said. And many didn't acquire this until they had flown a long time. So Boyle simply didn't have enough training to do the job, which is why he was so upset about him being hired in the first place. But what can you do?
Could you imagine? Could you imagine being Boyle, and like I get sweaty and my heart beats really fast if I mess things up.
Exactly.
I can imagine the first time being like, oh man, I'm gonna get in trouble for this, and then doing it again, I'd be like, ugh, this is horrible, and I'd be freaking out. But doing it a third time, I don't even know how I would emotionally react to that.
A third crash, you're like, oh, maybe I should
don't think
stay at home. Maybe
I don't think this is gonna work out.
Work in a factory or something. Yeah, you know he's having like an identity crisis at that point.
Exactly. Yeah, seriously.
But if you think about it too, power flight had only been around for 15 years. So the Wright brothers became the first to fly. Exactly. They became the first to fly in a powered plane in 1903, and then this year was 1918. So only 15 years, planes had improved enough that they could be used to carry cargo and be used over and over again.
Yeah,
and
that's very cool.
Even go further and further different distances than those first planes. And today, flying is one of the safest forms of travel because they do have so many regulations and things are so finally...
They got it figured out.
Yes, they learned a lot from those that, figured it out on the fly, literally. And back in the day, it was super dangerous. Between 1918 and 1926, 35 of the total 200 pilots in the Airmail program died in crashes.
Holy cow. In crashes?
Yeah, they called it the Suicide Club, flying for the USPS.
That is a large ratio.
Yeah, that is 17%.
Yikes.
Death rate.
Could you imagine joining a career and you're like, well, this is what it is.
Yeah, there's not the chance that you die is pretty high. It's pretty fun though.
Yeah, looking at the early 1900s, I have a feeling the ratio was in that general area for any occupation, anywhere.
Yeah.
No one was doing anything well.
Wild stuff happened. And these first planes only had top speed of 80 miles an hour, which is wild to me looking at modern planes, how fast those things go.
Yeah.
But just chugging along at the speed of a highway, just up in the air.
Slowly moving.
Exactly. And so they also had to come up with some rules for these pilots. And so there was 26 rules in the rule book. Mm-hmm. And they're about safety, like don't fly drunk, give yourself a certain amount of room before you take off, kind of stuff like that. Like seems pretty basics, but you got to write it down. And here's a few of them. Pilots will not perform any stunts with male airplanes or put them through any unnecessary strains. And then another says, if it is necessary to make a forced landing, get necessary assistance, all caps, so as not to delay mail in any respect. It's like, first and foremost,
mail is what matters.
Deliver the mail, which seems to be on brand for the Postal Service.
Yeah, seriously, they haven't changed much.
Yeah, which I think it's good. And another rule: carry maps unless you're absolutely sure of the country to be covered. So, this is crazy. Just like they're just flying around up there, like looking down, like, oh yeah, I know that is. Yeah, I follow these railroad tracks. It should be good to go.
Over a whole section of the country.
Wild. Across states. And they say, if possible, fly over 5,000 feet, preferably 8,000 feet, and never fly over cities unless you have a safe altitude. So these are just their basic rules they're just implementing that sometimes people didn't love following. There's this guy that was kind of, maybe not infamous, but a well-loved, well-known, maybe one of the most famous of these guys, named Wild Bill. Wild Bill Hobson.
Wild Bill.
So he was a taxi driver originally, and then was trained to be a pilot, and was good at getting things to a place on time.
Yes. Good for
And
him.
he kind of had a wild side, which is what he was known for. And he would often attempt speed records and stunts on his routes, and would sometimes put himself in danger doing so. So his supervisor told him, "I've heard numerous reports of your stunting mail ships. This is absolutely against regulations, and further actions of this kind will merit disciplinary action.
Wild Bill.
Do you not realize that the mail service is a business proposition, and everything that is not done in a business-like manner cannot be tolerated?" But that didn't stop him.
Can you can you imagine? You're like waiting on an important piece of mail, and you look up to the skies. You see this guy
doing loops.
big corkscrews, and you see like a box of them fly out the back of his plane.
It's like, I think that was mine.
Yep, there goes my Amazon package.
But this is kind of in the early days of flight, so they're trying stuff. He's trying to set speed records.
Yeah,
And,
why not?
he
got a plane.
pushes the boundaries.
Yeah.
And in 1 year, he made 13 forced landings. And this is because he would just fly through fog or bad weather until he couldn't fly anymore. So he would just have to land. Like he shouldn't have even taken off, but he would just fly anyway.
Yeah.
And one time a piece of his plane came loose. So he landed in a field, fixed it, and took off again 20 minutes later, which I just...
What?
Just resourceful dude.
Yeah.
Just dealing
Plane
with his
broke, gotta fix
issues.
Mm-hmm.
What else are you going to do?
Let's get this
gas
bad
from a
boy
farmer?
back in the air. Go bring our mail home.
Let's go.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, 1928, he died in a plane crash, was one of those 35 people.
Oh, wow.
And
Bill.
while carrying mail to New York and barely any of the mail could be salvaged, he was carrying a large shipment of diamonds, which is such on brand for the Postal Service. We couldn't even salvage the mail.
Yeah.
I died. Come on.
Come on. We lost the mail? Oh, the pilot's dead? Ah, man. Oh, well. But the mail!
And there was a large shipment of diamonds on this plane as well. And to this day, most of the diamonds were never recovered. So
That's an inside job.
legend has it, there could be diamonds in the hills of Pennsylvania somewhere to this day.
I think Wild Bill's still alive.
Oh.
He's just like, I got all these diamonds. I'm going to crash land, fake my death, and get away with them all.
The first... Who was that dude? ERL Hubs.
Was that his name?
No, it's not at all. But it's something like H. It's like two letters and a last name.
Yep, I know what you're talking about. Went missing and...
People are screaming. They're screaming it at us.
Yeah. This seems like
H.G. Wells.
Nailed it. That's it. That's it right there.
I don't know. I'm going to look it up.
P.T. Barnum.
P.T. Plane.
Oh my goodness. This is so frustrating.
This bothers me. Plane heist. D.B. Cooper. That's what it is.
That was a chunk of learn me something knowledge that we should have had soundly in our pockets.
We've never talked about that though.
No, it's too mainstream podcast.
That's funny. That's funny that you say that because I see things like that and I'm like, no.
Everyone's talking about them.
Yeah.
You know what no one's talking about? Land diving and the USPS formation of the mail service system. Yeah.
Nobody is. Nobody's talked about them together at least. Anyway, that's kind of the beginnings, the scrappy start of the Postal Service Airmail system.
Are you
crazy
allowed to share
times?
Your source for that one?
Yeah.
Is that one of your secret sources?
No. I can share my source for this one. It was harder to find information about this, but because I'm currently in D.C., there are a large collection of museums here that are free. And so I learned about this one from both the Air and Space Museum and the Postal Museum. Did you know there's a Postal Museum here?
No, that does not sound fun. Except now it kind of does because
it's more interesting than you think. It's very big. It's
Really?
for what it's crazy.
That is very interesting.
They have like a bunch of planes in there. They have I know all sorts of stuff about mail now. American mail, at least. Anyway, that's all I got.
That's good. That was a good one. This has been a fun first episode.
Classic Learn Me Something story and episode with a crazy story and then a crazy thing that people do.
Weird thing. Yeah, we do lots of weird topics.
We do.
And lots of early 1900s. This is a solid first episode of the season because we hit a lot of our typical checkpoints.
Very on brand. We had technical issues.
Yeah, also on brand.
So that's great.
If anyone who is just listening via the podcast app is curious about that weird conversation we had like half an hour ago, it was because my camera cut out. We're doing a new camera software live feed thing.
We'll get it.
And we're working through it.
One day, we'll get it.
If you are watching, well, you already know this because you now see me again. But I cut over to my phone, so we're on the phone cam.
Oh, I can't see you.
You can't, but my phone can. I'm just recording a video.
Oh, I see. Okay,
Well,
I just been talking to a couple colored bars. We don't need to talk about this. Let's wrap up and talk about the punishment.
Yes.
So, but first, before we talk about the punishment, we need to tell people that they need to choose a loser or a winner, I guess.
Vote for the winner. Yeah.
Vote for the winner. Go down to the link below. Vote for either Caleb or me. You can also vote at the link in our bio in social media.
Yep.
Vote for who you want to win. And then the loser will have to do the punishment of, how about you tell him?
This one is very frustrating because I'm a avid movie watcher, movie goer. The punishment of this episode is you have to go see a movie. Go pay to see a movie. Go sit in the theater. Has to be like a busy movie, like at a time when a lot of people are there. Got to go in, sit down, grab your popcorn if you want it. We didn't make any rules about the food. Start watching, and the second the previews end and the screen closes in to start the movie, you got to head out.
You're out of there.
you got to pay for the movie, watch the previews, and then leave before the movie actually starts.
I think you should go before the previews start too. So you have to watch all the previews.
Oh yeah.
Then leave. So you can't. It's not just go in, sit down, and leave. You have to sit there, let the excitement and the hype build of a movie you're about to watch,
and then get out of there
and leave.
Yep.
This is a psychological torture themed punishment.
Yeah. Yeah, so if you're new to the show, first of all, welcome. Season 4, Episode 1 is a great place to start. We have 3 other seasons in case you get interested. But we typically have 3 forms of punishment. There's psychological torture, there's physical torture, and then there's endurance. Are those the 3?
Yep.
This one is psychological / you have to spend money.
Financial. Maybe that's the 4th category.
Yeah. Last piece of housekeeping, and then we'll let you go from our first episode of Season 4. Make sure you head over to our Instagram account at Learn Podcast or our YouTube channel. We have set up our new higher quality video recording stuff so that we can do more reels and fun promotions that way. So you don't want to miss out on those because they're going to be good, in my opinion, if I can figure out my side of it.
We'll get it.
Yeah,
and check out Nightclub next week. New one.
Yeah. And then in 2 weeks, we're back with episode 2.
All right.
Let's wrap this bad boy up. Would you like to do the honors?
I would love to. Well, I'll have Larry do them. Larry, would you please play us out?